is what is demonstrated on multiple levels about the Western psyche. I mean, whether it's Weinstein or Epstein or Diddy or say R. Kelly or Dominic Strauss-Kahn, who everyone forgets about, the predation and the degeneracy of the super rich is always met with disingenuous shock and disgust, while simultaneously, without fail, we're also always told that everyone knew what these people were doing for years. And in fact, I think that most people do understand that this is how the super rich behave, so the shock is not genuine. But if we're being honest, the disgust isn't genuine either, because in fact, being rich enough to behave this way is precisely why many people want to be rich. The predation and the degeneracy are not peculiarities of the wealthy. The thing that makes them different is that they have the resources that enable them to do it. But for a very large percentage of people in the West, the only thing that's preventing them from behaving the same way is their comparative poverty, not their comparative piety. The rich are not necessarily any worse than the rest of the people morally. Their wealth just removes the constraints that restrict other people from being just as bad. I mean, if you look at popular entertainment, the sort of lifestyles that are promoted in popular entertainment and were promoted in the film and music industries by the likes of Weinstein and Diddy and R. Kelly and everyone else, that's the degenerate, debauched, hedonistic, anti-human, immoral lifestyle that they themselves were living and to which the consumers of that entertainment aspire. It's completely consistent with the mentality of colonizers and slave masters. The fantasy lifestyle for Westerners is brutal. It is to dominate, to humiliate, to exploit, abuse, subjugate, degrade, objectify, dehumanize, tyrannize, and enslave. That's the Western fantasy. It always was, and it is now, and they act upon it any chance they get. I mean, they'll prosecute these types of people, these select cases, only to absolve themselves. You know, they need to burn someone at the stake just to convince themselves that they're better than them, that they're more righteous and more moral than them, but they're not. Most of them are not. I mean, look at any music video, almost any music video, and tell me how it's not promoting the exact same lifestyle that you claim to hate Epstein and Weinstein and Diddy for. Meanwhile, those videos have hundreds of millions of views and hundreds of millions of likes, and you've memorized the words of those songs. You have a problem. You can't reform yourselves. You can't reform and rehabilitate your so-called civilization by just prosecuting token offenders. Finding these people guilty doesn't make you innocent. When you made them rich and you made them famous on the very basis of the degenerate messaging that they promoted and that you devoured. You've endorsed it all along, and you endorse it now. You aspired to it then, and you aspire to it now. I mean, you literally have someone like Andrew Tate, who directly built his wealth through and for this very lifestyle, and by selling it to others how they could do the same thing and have that same lifestyle. Because this is the Western male fantasy. I mean, think about it. Everybody in this case, in the Sean Combs case, everybody wants to know about the celebrities who were at those parties. No one wants to know about the nameless, faceless executives, the obscure, pasty old men for whom those parties were undoubtedly actually arranged in the first place. The celebrities were just the draw. They were the party favorites provided for those anonymous owners and controllers of global financialized capital. But you want to know about the celebrities, because even in your proclaimed disgust, you're still fantasizing. So I find the selective disgust to be performative. And that's actually useful. That's a useful thing to know about the Western psyche and how they respond when the crimes of their society get highlighted. Because yes, in my view, these are crimes of Western society, because the individual crimes of someone like Diddy are reflective of the values and the aspirations of Western society itself. So when these crimes get highlighted, in other words, when for whatever reason, for any particular individual, these crimes are suddenly and selectively subject to accountability, there's a choir of hypocritical condemnation and outrage. Now that matters to me, for instance, in the context of the Article 6 campaign to expel the United States from the United Nations, because just like Diddy or Weinstein or whoever, just like those criminals and just like how everyone has known about their degeneracy for years, so too everyone knows about America's crimes. And just like with Diddy or with Weinstein, everyone is complicitly silent until the moment of accountability comes. Then they all rush to a microphone to distance themselves and disown the criminal with self-absolving condemnation. So this is why you might see France and the UK not veto Article 6 of the Security Council, because once we bring all of the US violations to light in an official venue, not just in an essay or a book or a lecture or what have you, but actually in an official legal venue, violation after violation, crime after crime, human rights abuse after human rights abuse, stretching back for 8 decades, and call it out for what it is, why France and the UK are likely to act just like every associate of Diddy or Weinstein or Epstein or any of these other degenerate predators, and race each other to the podium to condemn and distance themselves and exonerate themselves and try to salvage their own reputation and polish their own image and assure the world of how good they are, how law-abiding they are, how principled they are by throwing America under the bus. I mean, do you think that any of the European colonial powers were actually happy to watch the US take over their empires? No. France and the UK are both seething with bitterness and resentment and envy. While they'll be just as happy to watch America fall as all those associates and co-conspirators of Diddy are happy to watch that belligerent criminal go to jail if they have been clever enough to protect themselves from being prosecuted themselves for their association with him. I think France and the UK are just the same.